George Russell crossed the line, secured 7th place, and then his Mercedes suddenly stopped at turn 1. Yellow flags appeared. The car was stranded. And within seconds, the incident was being described as a shocking retirement followed by an FIA investigation. But that version of the story is wrong. Russell did complete qualifying. His lap counted. His 7th place grid position was confirmed. And no verified source says the FIA opened an investigation into his stoppage. So what actually failed on the Mercedes? Why did the car survive just long enough to finish the lap? And why was another Mercedes driver genuinely placed under FIA investigation during the same chaotic session? Because Russell's stoppage was real. Mercedes' reliability fears were real. The FIA investigation was real. But they were not connected in the way most people think. Subscribe to the channel, because the unexplained problem inside Russell's Mercedes could be far more dangerous than any penalty from the stewards. The first thing that matters is timing. Russell did not stop before completing his lap. He did not lose the chance to record a result. He did not disappear from qualifying without a position. He crossed the finish line, his time was registered, and 7th place became official. Then, moments later, the Mercedes stopped at turn 1. That sequence changes everything. Because this was not a normal qualifying elimination. Russell had already finished the job. The lap existed. The grid position existed. The problem arrived after the result had been secured. And that makes the incident more unsettling, not less. A car that fails before the lap is complete gives the team one clear explanation for the result. The machine stopped, so the driver could not finish. But Russell's Mercedes survived exactly long enough to cross the line. Then it could not continue. That creates a much more uncomfortable question. Was the problem already developing during the lap? Did Russell complete the final corners with a warning he could feel? Did the car lose something only after maximum effort? Or did the failure appear suddenly, without any warning at all? The verified information does not answer those questions. And that uncertainty is the real beginning of Mercedes' trouble. No confirmed report identifies an engine failure. No confirmed report identifies an electrical failure. No confirmed report identifies a hydraulic problem. No confirmed report explains whether the stoppage came from software, hardware, or another system entirely. The car stopped. That is confirmed. The reason did not appear in the available source. And in Formula 1, an unexplained stoppage can be more disturbing than a known failure. When a team knows exactly what broke, it has a target. The engineers can inspect the component. They can replace it. They can check whether the same weakness exists elsewhere. They can decide whether the repair is simple, complicated, or dangerous. But when the cause is unclear, every possibility remains alive. The power unit becomes a question. The electrical systems become a question. The cooling systems become a question. The software becomes a question. Even the possibility of a smaller shutdown triggered by the car itself cannot be ruled in or ruled out from the source. That is why Mercedes could not treat the stoppage as a harmless ending to qualifying. Russell had just completed a maximum effort lap. The car had been pushed under heavy demand. Then, after the line, it stopped at turn 1. Imagine finishing a long drive, parking the car, and watching every warning light appear at once. You reached the destination. Technically, the journey was complete. But now you no longer trust the car to start again. That is the feeling Mercedes had to confront. Russell still had 7th place. But the team could not be sure that 7th place would matter if the car could not complete the race. And the Hungaroring makes that uncertainty even more serious. Starting 7th is already difficult. Russell would begin behind several cars with strong qualifying pace. Overtaking at this circuit is not easy. The corners arrive closely together. Following another car can reduce grip. The tires can become hotter. A driver may spend several laps preparing one move, only for the opportunity to disappear. Russell needed a clean start. He needed a dependable car. He needed the Mercedes to survive pressure, traffic, heat, and a full race distance. Then the car stopped before the weekend had even reached Sunday. That is why the real threat was not a penalty. It was reliability. A penalty can move a driver backwards. A reliability failure can remove him completely. And Russell had already arrived in Hungary carrying the weight of another difficult weekend. In Belgium, his race ended on the opening lap after contact with Hamilton. The Mercedes became stranded in the gravel. That incident and the Hungary stoppage were not the same. One came from a collision. The other appeared to be a technical or reliability problem, although the exact cause remained unconfirmed. They should not be treated as one failure. But emotionally, they still formed a pattern. One weekend, Russell's car was stuck in the gravel. The next weekend, it stopped at turn 1. Different causes. The same image. Russell outside the flow of the session while the rest of the field continued. That matters because drivers do not experience each weekend in isolation. The previous result follows them. The frustration follows them. The doubt follows them. And Russell had already described the season as the hardest psychological battle of his career. Those words now carried even more weight. A driver can accept one setback. He can call it bad luck. He can reset. But repeated interruptions create something deeper. They make the driver question whether the next opportunity will also disappear. Russell could control his braking points. He could control his steering. He could control how aggressively he attacked. He could not control a car that suddenly stopped. That helplessness is different from making a mistake. When a driver locks a tire, he can change his technique. When he misses a corner, he can study the line. When he loses a position, he can fight to recover it. But when the car switches off, the driver becomes a passenger. The steering wheel may still be in his hands. The outcome is no longer his. And there was another layer Mercedes could not ignore. Before Hungary, Russell had expressed confidence that the team had solved a software bug related to energy deployment from Spa. Energy deployment sounds technical, but the basic idea is simple. The car stores electrical energy, then uses it to produce extra power around the lap. If that system does not deliver energy correctly, the driver may press the accelerator and receive less performance than expected. It is like charging a battery overnight, then discovering that the power disappears exactly when you need it most. Mercedes believed that problem had been addressed. Then Russell's car stopped in Hungary. The source does not confirm that the stoppage was connected to the earlier software issue. That connection cannot be claimed. But the timing made the new problem harder to ignore. Mercedes arrived believing one technical concern was under control. Then another unexplained interruption appeared. That does not prove the same issue returned. It proves the team still had reasons to worry about whether the car would perform consistently. And consistency is everything in a race. One qualifying lap is a short explosion of performance. A Grand Prix demands repetition. The car must brake correctly, accelerate correctly, cool itself, manage energy, and protect its tires over and over again. Any hidden weakness gets more chances to appear. A problem that stays quiet for one lap may return after 10. A system that survives low fuel may react differently under a heavier load. A component that works in clean air may face more stress in traffic. The source does not confirm which system failed, so none of those possibilities can be presented as fact. But they explain why the stoppage was more than an inconvenient ending. It threatened Mercedes' confidence before the race had even begun. And this is where the wording around the incident became misleading. Russell's stoppage was described as a shocking retirement. But technically, he did not fail to finish qualifying. His time counted. His position remained. He was 7th. The correct picture is stranger. He finished qualifying, then the car failed to return normally. That distinction matters because it tells us what Mercedes lost. The team did not lose Russell's recorded lap. It lost certainty. Certainty that the car was healthy. Certainty that the issue was small. Certainty that Russell could attack the race without limitation. And certainty is one of the most valuable things a Formula One team can have. When the car behaves as expected, strategy becomes easier. The driver knows how hard he can push. The engineers know which settings are safe. The team can plan the race around performance. When the car stops for an unconfirmed reason, every decision becomes heavier. Can Russell use full power? Can he attack from the start? Can the team trust the same systems over a full distance? Would a repair require changing a component? Could that affect his starting position? The source does not confirm any grid penalty or replacement. So those questions must remain questions. But they are exactly the questions Mercedes had to answer internally. That is the real pressure. The team was not facing a confirmed investigation into Russell's car. It was facing an internal race against uncertainty. And there was no time to relax. Russell's teammate, Kimi Antonelli, had his own problem. Antonelli was the Mercedes driver genuinely connected to an FIA investigation after qualifying. The issue concerned a possible yellow flag violation following Verstappen's spin. That case was real. Russell's stoppage was real. But they were separate. One involved a potential sporting breach. The other involved an unexplained technical interruption. The headline combined them. The facts did not. That is what makes the Mercedes situation so complicated. The FIA was examining Antonelli. The engineers were examining Russell's car. One side of the garage faced regulatory uncertainty. The other faced reliability uncertainty. And both problems arrived during the same chaotic end to qualifying. That meant Mercedes could not focus on one crisis. It had to manage two. Could Antonelli keep his position? Could Russell's car complete the race? Could the team prepare both drivers properly while one case involved the stewards and the other involved the machine? That is the real meaning of big trouble. Not one dramatic accusation. Two different problems, arriving at the same time, demanding completely different solutions. And Russell's side may have been the more frightening one. The FIA can publish a decision. A stewarding case can end with a penalty or no further action. The team receives clarity. A hidden mechanical weakness offers no such comfort. It can remain quiet in the garage. It can survive the formation lap. It can wait until the first hard acceleration. Then it can return. That is why Russell's stopped car mattered more than 7th place. 7th was visible. The real problem was hidden. And until Mercedes explained exactly why the car stopped, every lap of the race carried the same question. Would the Mercedes keep going when Russell finally asked everything from it again? And this is where Mercedes' weekend becomes more complicated than one stopped car. Because while Russell's engineers were trying to understand why his Mercedes stopped at turn 1, the other side of the garage was dealing with a completely different threat. Kimi Antonelli was under genuine FIA investigation. Not for a technical irregularity. Not for an illegal part. And not because Mercedes had been caught breaking a construction rule. The investigation concerned his response to yellow flags after Max Verstappen spun during the final part of qualifying. That distinction matters. Russell had a reliability problem. Antonelli had a sporting problem. One threatened whether the car could complete the race. The other threatened whether the driver could keep his grid position. And Mercedes had to deal with both at the same time. Yellow flags are one of the clearest warnings in Formula 1. They tell the driver that something dangerous has happened ahead. A car may be stopped. A driver may be recovering. The normal racing line may not be clear. And the approaching driver must react. He must be prepared to slow down. He must be ready to change direction. Most importantly, he must show that he has recognized the danger. Antonelli's case centered on whether he had done enough. Did he reduce his speed sufficiently? Did he respond in the way the rules required? Did he remain too committed through the yellow flag area? Those were the questions for the FIA. And unlike the supposed investigation into Russell's stopped car, this one was real. But here is the problem for Mercedes. Even if Antonelli's case had nothing to do with Russell's stoppage, the two incidents still collided inside the same race preparation. The team could not isolate one garage from the other. It had to understand Russell's technical issue. It had to prepare Antonelli's defense. It had to consider whether the starting order might change. And it had to do all of that after a qualifying session where Mercedes had already failed to challenge for pole. Antonelli had qualified 4th. Russell had qualified 7th. That result showed that Mercedes still had speed. But it also showed that the team was not in control. One car was near the front, but under investigation. The other had completed the lap, but then stopped. That is a brutal combination. Because Formula 1 teams prepare their race strategy around certainty. They need to know where each car will start. They need to know which tires will be available. They need to know whether the power unit is healthy. They need to know whether the drivers can attack. Mercedes had questions in every one of those areas. If Antonelli received a penalty, his starting position could change. If Russell's issue required a significant repair, his race preparation could change. If the cause remained unknown, the team might have to decide how aggressively to run the car. The source does not confirm that any of those consequences happened. But those are the natural risks created by the situation. And this is where the real pressure moves from the engineers to Russell. Because Russell would start from 7th on a circuit where recovering positions is difficult. The Hungaroring does not offer long, easy overtaking zones. The corners connect tightly. Following another car can reduce grip. Tires can overheat. A driver can spend several laps trapped behind someone slightly slower, unable to get close enough at the right moment. That means Russell's race already required patience and precision. But patience alone would not be enough. He would also need aggression. He would need to attack when an opportunity appeared.